exciting. You will notice I sound a lot better from my last audio. I don't sound like shit. It's because I actually got sleep today. And, well, I had a midterm, so I had to. But, you know, no fire alarms this time. No gayness. Exciting stuff. So, anyways, let's get this unpaused and 45-second mark, 1x speed, H2KRX point of view, and unpause in 3, 2, 1, unpause. Alright, so he's doing the standard base build, and what you're going to end up doing is sending all your wood peasants to the left, which is unfortunate. It would be better to send them to the back, but you just really can't get enough lumber that way. And that way they'd be more protected, and you wouldn't really screw up your base build in the process. With Orc, it's a little easier because you can actually spread out your base build up top with your bestiaries and such. At the bottom, you'll notice that Thomas G, Mr. MYM Thomas, is going to be doing a nice little base build which protects all the wisps at the bottom and makes a nice little pocket just in case they try and harass you. And that will come in handy in a wee bit. So generally with this matchup, what you're going to end up doing is scouting with the militia only. And you're just going to use that to scout both players. A lot of people know this, but some people I've seen scout with peon as well. And it just seems like a waste of a peon. So, setting up the early game is really nothing special for the human. You just basically do the regular build. And what they're going to do is a nice harassment. And one thing that you want to do when you're doing your harassment is don't harass the orc. Because, I mean, they're going to have their burrows protected, obviously. And you're just going to lose so much damage in your units that they're probably going to be able to pick off several before you can even do much. Maybe even a couple grunts. So what you do is you push the Night Elf. Reason being is because it's a Huntress build, and pretty much every Night Elf I've seen goes Huntress in 2s. So a good thing to do is just go the safe way. Go push the Night Elf because all they will have is like a just built Ancient of War, and what they're going to do is they're going to build a Huntress. So really they have no base defense except for the Moonwells. So you're pretty sweet to do that. So once again, he's making a nice little pocket. Or, let's see, the Night Elf is making a nice little pocket. And the reason being is that A, it protects all his wisps, and B, it protects a few of his buildings, like his second Moonwell that he's trying to set up, which obviously ends up getting raped several times. But it just protects that from being harassed too badly. So generally what you're going to be doing early game in the harassment process is just try and take out as many either Moonwells or Wisps as possible. If they have a nice base build, just send the footies in and the Water Elementals to do some nice harassment that way. And if you can really stop their wood production, you can really screw them over because Hunters kind of cost a lot in wood. And then you'll really force them into actually not having any tech. And generally if they go Priestess of the Moon, your Blade Master is free to run rampant through pretty much absolutely everything because they don't have mana burn. So you can just use as many Windwalks as you want. And it pretty much hurts in the end. So what you really do as the Orc is just kind of pick off the weak units. And generally you want to match up the Orc against the Night Elf and the Human against the Orc. Reason being, and like if you're going to solo them at any point, which is basically you pick one player and you pick on them, and your ally picks on the other. And generally the reason you do this is because, well, A, humans imbalanced against Orc, and B, Night Elf will only be doing Huntress if they're going to be pushing, so all you really have to end up doing is, like, just ensnare and demo push them, and it works out a lot better than trying to do that against a whole bunch of Headhunters, which is a no bueno. Yeah, you don't want to demo raid or push a whole bunch of Headhunters. You'll just lose demos, and you'll get crushed, and it's not fun. So, early game, what they're going to end up doing is pushing you. So, really what you want to do is kind of hide out in your base, or hide out in your allies' base, and just kind of try and keep them away if you can, but generally you're not going to be able to anyways. So just kind of try and do a hit-and-run type of technique, which is basically... or I guess it's a flanking technique. You kind of run in, you know, to their army, not like run into their base. You just kind of run up to them. You try and pick off one or two units, and then you kind of run away. And what you really want to end up doing is maximizing how much you get out of it. Against good players, it's a lot harder to do because they'll end up picking off one of your units. But as the game gets later and later, it gets easier and easier to do because you'll have ensnare and slow, and all they'll have is their dryads and their not dryads. They'll just have headhunters and huntress. So pretty much they're screwed, and you can end up flanking a lot more units than they can, just because they'll be so much slower, and it's just great like that. Also, another thing that the whole massing thing relies on is the fact that both of their heroes and their auras will be able to overcome your two heroes, which is a fairly good strategy because really what they end up doing is killing a whole bunch of your units. If it works well, is they end up killing a whole bunch of your units, and then, I stopped focusing. I just kind of watched the battle. Anyways, what I was saying, they end up focusing down a whole bunch of your units, and their heroes level up so much faster than yours, so that they'll be able to get like level 2 shockwave and stuff before you can get, level 3 on any of your heroes. So it ends up being a biatch. Yeah. Generally, as a second hero, you pick the Blood Mage. Reason being is because Orc heroes really run out of mana pretty quickly, and also Flame Strike really kicks so much ass against those stupid headhunters. So it's a great thing to have, just because you'll keep their army mostly mobile as opposed to doing damage, and that's always a good thing to have them not doing is damage. So that's one thing to keep in mind of why you go the Blood Mage. Also, it's to really keep the Blade Master alive, so what you do is you just kind of siphon the Shadow Hunter, because just Shadow Hunters run out of mana so quickly. So as you can see, what they're doing is basically trying to pick off one unit and run away. And you'll notice that they really didn't get much picking off because, they don't have Ensnare yet. And in this case, it kind of backfired, especially because they don't really have much of a speed advantage. All they really have is like one Endurance Aura. So really what you want to do is... Oh, really nice surround here, by the way, on the Shadow Hunter. That's just Gosu. So yeah, as the Orc, what you do is you ensnare. As a human, what you do is you slow. And generally you rely on the mortar teams to do most of the damage, along with the Demolishers. You don't really rely on the Raiders and the Footmen and the Breakers. Breakers are just in the way to make sure that they don't get to your mortar teams, and along with the Raiders. Raiders just used for ensnare. Sorks just try and inhibit them from getting to the back lines. So basically you're relying on pretty much your mortar teams and your heroes to do most of the damage. Geez, he's so good at surrounding this Night Elf. It's kind of impressive, actually. But nice little footy block. Still not going to save his hero, but still. Nice use of Flame Strike, since it was going to die anyways. So yeah, one thing to keep in mind is if you're on each side of their army, generally a team player or a team is going to chase one army, and then the other one comes in while you're running away. Ensnare, focus down a couple headhunters, and then the Orc's going to run away, and both players are going to chase them. And then the human comes in slow. That's pretty much the best way to approach this matchup, is to try and keep them away from your base as much as possible. And a good thing that you can do as Orc is that you can. Oh, sorry, my phone rang. But the best thing that you can do as Orc is actually head up to their base and start beating on their buildings, because then one of them's forced back, and generally the Night Elf is going to run back and save the Night Elf's base. So really all you have to worry about as a human is trying to save the Orc. And, doing a great job right now. He's going to lose all his burrows, which is too bad. But, yeah, generally you just kind of don't want to get split up too much, and if you are going to get split up, you just focus down each side of their army, and it works out great. Generally, Kodo Beasts are a good thing to get, just because of the damage output for the mortar teams and stuff. So as I said, once again, human focusing down the Orc, and the Orc doing stuff to the Night Elf, which is the basics of this matchup. So generally against people doing the whole rushing thing, just waste as much of their time as possible, flank off a couple units, and when they head up to low upkeep, what you do is you try and keep them as low in low upkeep as possible. And by that I mean just like, if they're at 54, keep them at 54. So, you see one unit and you focus it down, and then they're back to like 51, and it just kind of gaze them over, because then they end up losing so much money. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. Of course, it's kind of hard to figure out whether they're in low upkeep, and generally the Orc player will enter low upkeep a lot sooner because his units are cheaper, and they really don't